I have recently discovered a Minecraft mod pack named GregTech CEFU, allegedly GregTech Community Edition frivolous. I don't know what the U stands for, which I will interpret as GregTech Community Edition fuck you. The reason for this is it containing an extremely ungreggy mod known as Project T, making it incredibly cursed. As such, I have decided to launch an investigation into it. Upon spawning in, I found a surface ore sample. This was a geolysis reference, which makes it a Project Townie reference. I then proceeded to check the quest book and instantly complete the game from these quest rewards. Afterwards, I started mining for coal right below the ore sample. I foolishly expected there to be coal underneath, leading to the following tomfoolery occurring.
Not your fault, I felt this rage, just a child about your age. Something drives me to the place. I can see him in your face, never know what I see. Don't fear what's come, we can't fight off the urge inside. Talking, you're afraid, the devils that come out at night. Let's make this easy, so your heart beats you hate it. No need for sleep tonight, sweet dreams are overrated. Don't fear what's come, we can't fight off the urge inside. Talking,
Finally, I could get all the coal I would ever need due to the sheer perfect balancing that is the red matter hammer. The hilarious plot twist is that I only need one piece of coal due to the inclusion of Project E in this pack. However, I need EMC to use the transmutation table, so I will now mine a lot of coal. This was halted by me deciding to learn the hammer by putting it into the table, and when I made it again it didn't have any charge, meaning my nuker client no longer worked.
I'm just a whisper in the void. No one's there, you're paranoid. I'm just a trick of your own mind. Blink your eyes once and you'll find.
It was now time for me to build the greatest base that anyone has ever seen. Truly, this would go down in history as the greatest construction in the history of mankind. After this I will probably go mine.
I'm just a ghost inside your head. Don't fear your fate, that soon arrives. It's a deadly lullaby. You'll be with us very soon. Another spirit in the room. Take your place among the lost. Don't fear what's coming. We can't fight off the urge inside. Talking, you're afraid. The devils that come out at night. Let's make this easy, so your heart beats tonight. So alright, I'll take you with me tonight. This nightmare, this prison, inside the suits we live in. Don't feel me, together, we'll have sweet dreams forever. Don't fear what's coming, we can't fight off the urge inside. Talking, you're afraid, the devils that come out at night. Let's make this easy, so your heart beats you hate it. No need for sleep tonight, sweet dreams are overrated. Don't fear what's coming.
I have gotten a sapling from a quest, which means it was now time to make the greatest wood farm this world has ever seen. With mining iron out of the way, it was time to make furnaces and wait 9 years for everything to smelt. This is the Greg of all time. I decided to use 9 gregillion furnaces to speed this process up to a reasonable rate. For some reason this pack does not have the iron furnaces mod. It was now time to wait 7 heat deaths of the universe for everything to smelt. While waiting for everything to smelt, I have decided to build a portal to the mining dimension, which is really good since it is a completely flat dimension that still has ore spawn all while having permanent daytime. Then I proceeded to be trolled by ore samples once more. I love GregTech ore generation. Also, I have increased the amount of homes I can set and how quickly I can warp to them. It was then time to work on GregTech tools, except due to game design I had to make them all out of iron or else the quest book would not let me proceed. I then realized I probably needed some After I mined out all the copper I would need until I found other methods, I decided to move my entire base to the mining dimension. I specifically moved the other direction from my mining site because I did not want to have ugly holes around my base. Afterwards, I invested into an array of 7 primitive blast furnaces in order to make steel at a more reasonable speed. The furnaces were then removed upon me seeing that steel not only had EMC but was cheaper to make using it. This is such a Project E moment. Also, I finally learned how to use Project E tools. As seen in the following footage, I added EMC to a few items because I could not be bothered to deal with repairing or replacing tools. I then crafted the steam turbine, which meant I was officially in low voltage. You might have noticed that I have a GregTech fuck ton of circuits. This is because of this quest which gave me 32 circuits for crafting 32 circuits. I started to notice a quite considerable issue with me running out of EMC. I was investigating good sources of EMC when I have discovered that bronze dust is a lot more expensive than bronze, meaning I could make bronze out of EMC and crush it for even more EMC, leading me to become an EM-cillionaire. This is an incredibly balanced mod pack with no flaws whatsoever. I was now checking the quest book to see what I should go for next, when I have witnessed this pack made Pyrolyze Oven optional. This was a bruh moment of cataclysmic proportions. Anyways, it was time to work on my machine line. And in order to fuel my steam turbines I would need much more steam than 5 coal boilers could generate, so I built the large bronze boiler, which would feed my machines for the rest of low voltage. With that out of the way, I decided to look for more EMC sources. Bronze crushing was extremely good, but it was also extremely manual. I have found this item called EMC Collector which allegedly generated EMC using photosynthesis, so I made it a priority to obtain it. However, they required glowstone which I did not have. The only sources of glowstone I could find were cinnabar processing which I would not do or alchemical table, which promised me that it could turn gunpowder into glowstone with EMC. Fun fact, I did not have gunpowder, and the only source I could find was from creepers. I could not be bothered to go look for creepers, so I just spawned one and then brutally slaughtered it for the gunpowder. Plot twist. I needed the energy collector to make glowstone which I needed to make the energy collector. The alchemical table could not use my own stored EMC. It did not lie to me, but I will still consider it the biggest betrayal I have ever been in. I quite literally could not find any other feasible methods for obtaining glowstone, so I had to spawn it in just like the creeper. I then proceeded to spend the next few hours trying to figure out how EMC collectors worked, only to realize I needed EMC links. The links were a pain to craft, so I added an EMC value to them. I have been making machines in the background but did not mention it, and now that I had most machines I started working on medium voltage. First thing I would need was gallium arsenic, and I tried using cobaltite dust to obtain arsenic since the quest book told me it was a good method. This was followed with an epic betrayal where I needed medium voltage machinery in order to electrolyze cobaltite dust. After that incident, I have tried using realgar instead. The problem is that all of this tomfoolery was taking up too much of my time, so I decided to open Cheat Engine to try to speed the game up. This did absolutely nothing other than making me run faster. Then I electrolyzed sphalerite ore for gallium and finally made the gallium arsenide, which had an EMC value, completely defeating the whole point. Nice one, GregTech Community Edition. Fuck you. By combining diodes, steel plates, copper wires, a good circuit board, and 2 LV circuits, I have made an MV circuit, which I used to make the circuit assembler machine. Using it, everything was now at least 40 times cheaper. One thing I did not mention is that this pack has 2 blocks that let you sell energy or items for money and an item that lets you buy ores for that money. So I linked up the seller to a steam turbine for infinite ore, so I no longer had to go mining. Now that I had the MV circuits, I would need the blast furnace, which unlike pyrolyze oven or primitive blast furnace was not brutally annihilated, to officially get into medium voltage. Since I needed inver, I also needed lots of nickel, which took a lot of EMC, but it could also be obtained by smelting nickel ore, which is precisely what I did. From that, I got a lot of EMC, but I did not like the speed at which it was going, so I used a bunch of bronze to make the steam oven, which was 8 faster furnaces in one furnace that took steam as fuel, effectively making it not take fuel. I used the steam oven to smelt nickel, which was the stupidest thing I could do due to me having removed all my other furnaces for it, meaning I no longer had a way to effortlessly smelt stuff. I could solve it by building a second oven, but I chose not to and instead worked on the electric blast furnace. Outside of using nickel, I also had an array of low-tier EMC collectors to generate me EMC passively. They were kind of useless now, but I still kept them because I will not be smelting nickel 24/7. After having sat around doing nothing for a while and waiting for the stuff to process, I finally had the 16 cupronickel coils, which were the second hardest part of the electric blast furnace. The rest of the furnace was extremely easy to get, and I got it. The quest book also required me to make a battery buffer because apparently the pack author expected me to have gotten this far with only one steam turbine. It was now time for the funny part. Each aluminum took 44 seconds to process, meaning I would have to wait 8 years for it to process. This was a GregTech, New Horizons reference probably. I don't know, I never got to MV there. Anyways, it could be sped up by using nitrogen instead of nothing as the fluid, which is what I worked on next. Nitrogen is obtained by centrifuging air, which is obtained by using an air collector in the overworld dimension. I was not in the overworld dimension and there was no alternative, and since this wasn't a problem I felt like dealing with, partly because I had no clue how to deal with it due to the lack of dimensional transceivers, I just spawned in a creative fluid tank filled with air. There was only one thing left to do. Wait for the aluminum to process, and even though with nitrogen it took 5 years instead of 8, it still took 5 years. After that wait, I tried using Cheat Engine to speed it up again, which did not work again. And I have acquired a grand profit of 1.5 stacks of aluminum, with which I could afford approximately nothing. This concludes my investigation for now, but I will come back to this later.